Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. There's more growing suspicion once again with a post claiming, or more so suggesting, is Jack Newton some kind of secret FBI agent? Why is he asking around or originally wanting answers from people, including key witnesses like the truck driver, possibly Tyler Hoodman? Why does he need to know everything? Isn't it the police's job to learn? Well, join me today as I share with you my thoughts, my analysis, and we break it down bit by bit in regard to one of the Facebook posts in recent time, which has become a little bit heated, and a lot of people have had a lot of things to say for and against. Now, we're not going to go through every comment because there's over 200, but I'll just give you a little snippet of some of which includes what Brooke Bounds Carter had to say in response. I mean, other named people, if you used to go look at the post online, it's the typical Judy, and then some others, more so from the army page, it's kind of typical, and we see how they can be problematic humans, all documented on the channel. But later on today in this video, be sure to stick around. There's some additional problematic humans, and once again, the return of one of the most obsessed individuals out there when it comes to my channel. I will be responding back to that said person, because the video that was done in recent time, for most part of it, had nothing to do with them, yet they made it absolutely everything to do with themselves. They kind of contradicted themselves there, walking, talking, but that's for later. We focus in on what's most important, the Noah Presgrove case and coverage. For those in attendance and watching during this live premiere, welcome. Share your thoughts and opinions in the live chat box located on the right side of the screen there. And for anyone watching in the background, appreciate it. At any point or time, and for anyone on catch up, if you've got any additional thoughts, questions, answers, be sure to list them down below under the video in the comments section. It'll help with new conversations, keeping the case alive. And whilst you're down there, if you'd like to support my channel, there is a PayPal link in the pinned comments section. And if you want to catch up on recent coverage of the Noah Presgrove case, or you want to look back at archives, every video is available. All 550 plus videos on the case, and that can be found top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is up there. Click on the eye, you get a drop down menu box with the full playlist and the odd loose video attached. So it's interesting, once again, we're focusing in on Jack Newton. So people on the sideline and from further afar can't be having to go whinging or whining saying I'm not covering it from that angle. It is important to acknowledge that a bit of material that we will be incorporating today to consider is what Caden Pressey said to Jack Newton in a Snapchat conversation, which was documented back in 2024, I believe. I don't know what month, but it fell on a Friday. And it's when Caden Pressey was with his girlfriend at the time, tagging along with JJ Bumpaz, Caden JJ friends, and Bumpaz's girlfriend at the time, I believe Logan Jernigan. At the time, they were all at a diner, and Jack Newton had reached out to Caden in regard to the timeline and what Caden remembered seeing, such as at the highway. Is that Jack Newton being a detective? Is it Jack Newton being hyper alert and checking on in what other people say or saw, just to make sure everyone falls in line, to make sure that Jack wasn't caught out in any way? Who knows? But we'll get a better idea of it later when we get to it. To set the scene first, let's head on over to Facebook and see what was mentioned and some of the questions addressed. You can find this post on the case discussion group 2 days ago by Tracy Gann. She says, I just wanted to see what others thought about something I've questioned about Jack Newton's interview. I can't remember if it was an interview held by like People News or just Jack Newton talking to someone. Well, from what I can remember, Jack Newton did participate in one interview on the highway, and I did mention about doing a body language analysis video about that, which I'll probably do in the coming days. Not too sure if Tracy's referring to that one. The other interview being Parts in True Crime, which was pre-recorded and then played to Ashley Chadwick and Robin Smith for a video, which they reacted to and responded. They're the interviews that I'm familiar with. If there's any others, feel free to list them down below. But anyway, the topic was when Jack Newton made the statement in quotes or rough quotes, he did not know who the other truck driver was, but he did need to reach out to talk to that driver. So, who is this truck driver, the other one? I'm guessing the one Jack did communicate with was Tyler Hardy, but Tyler Hudman, the one we don't really know much about, who's not really been interviewed or shown up anywhere in articles, the face hasn't been shown either. They're a bit of a mysterious person, you could argue. The only thing that we have is that police dispatch call and their voice. And it was Brenda and another person that simply said that the voice of Tyler Hudman is sounding somewhat familiar to a voice sound what they've heard in the past. Nothing that deep, but that's just all we have to work with. So at the time, roughly, Jack Newton wanting to get some answers and inquire about maybe Tyler Hudman. Okay, so where's this exactly going? When I heard and read this, I just sort of thought, why would Jack need to talk to anyone within a possible crime scene? Wouldn't the law enforcement be making those kind of phone calls? Well, you could also argue and say, well, Caden Pressey at some point showed up at the crime scene, and at least for the matter, one of his shoes was actually found on the victim's body. So surely the police would be inquiring and interviewing Caden Pressey, right? But they didn't immediately. So if the police don't follow things up, proactively, and they don't take full reins of everything, then what's wrong with another person taking matters into their own hands, providing it's not too reckless, and getting the answers and the closure that they want and need? Because we got to remember Jack Newton, best friends to Noah, and it's his best friend Noah that had died. So whilst it might not be related by blood, it's close enough, and if they've been taken unexpectedly, you would want answers. And if other people aren't doing it, or it doesn't seem like it at the time, you might take matters into your own hand. But beside that, after a year or so, everyone started talking, including myself. What does that exactly mean? After a year or so, everyone was talking. You mean from 2023, not much. 2024 is where it all started off because of the Facebook pages and groups. Is that what you're referring to? Could people be getting bought out? There's a question mark there. The more information you know, the more daddy Warbucks paid for that information. Now, understand me, I'm not saying anyone was bought off, anyone out, but around a year ago, that whole scenario played out. So recently, with all the old stories that are being replayed, that question came to my mind. Well, why would Jack want to talk to the truck driver? Here's something to think about just based on a simple statement that Jack made. I really need to talk to him. Right. I mean, not every simple statement will have a deep hidden meaning, but there's no harm in questioning it as we go along. I think it continues on to the next one. A few little questions and thoughts by Tracy. Number one, I remember Caden in his interview and in his statements throughout the army group that Caden had made to various people that morning. It was Noah, mystery truck driver, Jack Newton, Caden, and possibly the two boys and another man who presumably drove the F-150 with just these handful of people. Caden was told to leave. He believes it was Tyler Hardy, first 911 caller, that told him to leave and go back to the house. God, I wonder what would have happened if Caden would have stayed right there and didn't budge. Well, I'll give you my thoughts on what would have happened or could have happened if Caden had stayed. But first of all, what we do need to break down right now, some mistakes, I believe, have been made with what Tracy has said above. So let's just go through it bit by bit to clear up any confusion or mistakes. So yeah, Caden interacting on Facebook through different, posts and whatnot, making those statements in the early days. Yeah, that makes sense. And interview parts in true crime. And then the police leaked one months apart in 2024. But it's mentioned about Caden had brought it up about that morning at the scene that Noah was present, of course, the body. Like there was a mystery truck driver, supposedly. Jack was present, correct. Caden was at some point, correct. And possible the two boys. Well, maybe. But what Caden said wasn't two boys. Caden said it was three: Mikey, Brylan, and Isaac Rojas. But of course, it collides with hard evidence of a snap selfie in bed at 5:27. Mikey Lair was still at the house. And at 5:27, that's when Caden was supposed to be at the highway with Mikey and Isaac and Brylan. And just based on the atmosphere and the mood of people that were present in that photo at 5:27, consisting of Mikey, Logan and Jasmine Milan, they all looked very happy and completely oblivious as to the news of Noah's death, likely because it hadn't come out at that point, but it was later. That in its own right would throw Caden's timeline underwater, as in it just doesn't seem to be correct. It's stacked against him. Let's make that clear. And if Caden was at the highway at that point, the two boys would have been Brylan and Isaac then. But when Tracy says another man who presumably drove the F-150, no. If we're talking about Caden's timeline, we're talking about a different set of truck drivers or other witnesses, like a pair, a first wave. The second wave being the actual callers into dispatch. Tyler Hudman, first caller. Tyler Hardy, the third caller. Who's the second caller? Tyler Hardy. But it went to static, so he had to call back again when there was a better signal. So when Tracy says that Tyler Hardy was the first caller, that's incorrect. It's Tyler Hudman. And as for Tyler Hardy knowing anything of Caden or seeing him, it wasn't the case. Tyler didn't see Caden at the scene, and Caden didn't see Tyler Hardy at the scene. So with that disconnect and split, and the timings being off as well, at the time it was interpreted that, Caden Pressey must have been there earlier, and the truckers that he saw was a completely different pair of guys and had no resemblance to Hardy or Hudman. Caden did describe it, not that there was an F-150 present, that's not correct. Caden said that there was a white semi-truck and a service truck with or without a crane. The closest thing to that would have been a service truck at 6 a.m. onwards when Cash Alsop, Chief Volunteer Firefighter, was present at the scene, but that's 6 a.m. onwards. What Caden saw could have been Cash Alsop's vehicle, but the timing is off. So no F-150 based on Caden's timeline, no Tyler Hardy either. Just to clear that up, right? And then moving on to point number 2 below. Tracy says, I remember after a little while that it came out that Tyler Hardy actually knew the Bubbs family and the Combs family, which was very odd to me. Is it odd, or is it just a coincidence? Is it because it's a small town or a small community, so people are going to know one another fairly well? Number 3, so now Ellie is totally involved, taking over Noah's death, and things are starting to move along. Very, very slowly, but at least it started. It started, what, only now? Question 4, or point 4, we heard of so many different possibilities of who did it, how they did it, what they used, where it all took place versus where his body was found, and when the time was. Right, and number 5, and then somewhere after all this, the first week or 2, I remember Jack Newton saying he still needed to talk to the other, trucker. Right. I guess my point is, since we're talking about some of the older things to try to make sense of some things, I wanted someone to try and help me make sense of this. Well, I think I've assisted already because there was some mistakes made. But anyway, in capital letters, why would Jack feel like it was his job or duty to take it in his own hands to talk to the only other person at that scene beside Tyler Hardy about what he might have seen or overheard talk about Noah before Ellie got there, remembering the only other person at the scene the family actually knew? What, checking on in to make sure all the stories add up and in line with one another? Some suspicion, some concern, worry from Jack Newton? Is that Sam? I mean, Tyler Hardy present, Tyler Hudman present based on Jack's timeline. Caden's timeline with the mention of Jack being present, but a different set of truckers would be very unusual based on the earlier timeline. Let's see what else is here about what he might have seen or overheard. I mean, Jack Newton at 5:53 was still at the party house after sending a message to his father, Caleb, about meeting up at the Warwicker boat ramp, change of locations, meet up. Then after 5:53, Jack set off, and around 6 in the morning is when he noticed what was ahead and got out and realised. So yeah, Hudman and Hardy were already there before Jack. So for Jack to inquire or ask in any way would make sense, because the ones that were there earliest, what did they see? What Jack didn't? Did Jack miss out on anything? And so on. It's a normal human response, that. But there are some responses by other people, like Brooke Bounds Carter. Let's read a bit out. Tracy, reread how you wrote that. It absolutely was pointing the finger towards Jack. I have always been willing to talk about any of it and find out anything I didn't know for you, but I will not sit back and watch people nonchalantly try and point fingers at innocent people. If you truly were wondering why he wanted to talk to him, I'm sure it's because he loved Noah with every ounce of his heart and felt uneasy about something with the truck driver. And if he made the comment, he said he wanted to speak to him. If it were my best friend, child or family member, I'd be beating down every single door to find answers. I do not see why that's wrong of him to say. If it were your best friend and something didn't sit right with you in regards to something you saw or about the death, wouldn't you want to contact them and find out? I mean, these kids are damned if they do and damned if they don't. They've told Ellie every single thing that they know. I don't know what else people want from them. So what BBC is suggesting here is damned if you do, damned if you don't. If the partygoers keep quiet and don't say anything and wait until they are asked questions by police and authorities, they're seen as hiding information and they're not being truthful and they're suspicious. But if any partygoers do speak out a lot or inquire to get answers themselves, they're deemed as suspicious because they're trying to get the latest scoop and trying to know and learn as much as possible so then they can back up their own little alibi or, connect ties with one another, so make sure nothing is leaked out. That's how it's deemed or perceived. So really, any action that the partygoers do is going to be seen by the general public as suspicious, and there's no way around it. So yeah, it is an unfortunate situation to be in like that. And this one, I don't know how old this is, but within the comment thread of that post, someone had posted a screenshot of another thread, another conversation somewhere. It says 18 hours ago, but I don't know if that's real time or if that's more in the past, like an archive. But beside that, BBC said to Judy, I think, you literally are the queen of lies and spreading BS, literally the absolute worst. You are a horrible, degenerate human. Yes, I've seen videos and pictures that haven't been made public. I know a lot of things that have not been made public. You want to say that I have lied about anything in this case? Please list those, because I guarantee you can't list one. Judy, you need to take your ass back to your side of the street, because you are the one of the ones that don't have a clue what's going on. Ultimately, do I think it's suspicious of Jack Newton wanting to reach out or at some point in the past to get answers? I mean, is it really strange? when you got someone on the sideline who's not even a part of the case, like Justin Roy, that is acting like a private investigator at times, pushing on in like a bull in a china shop. Oh, but that's perfectly acceptable. You know, to be boisterous, to be toxic, to make false labels and insults towards other people, and to have tunnel vision, and to neglect and to not listen, to use reckless, dangerous language, which causes confusion, which can impact the case and learning, and just completely neglecting all the other perspectives and just focusing in on a one-sided, overly emotional, petty-like, infantile-like, degenerate-like, ignorant, arrogant, egocentric, impetuous mindset, if that is accepted and a person like that, of that level of incompetence, can behave the way they do and charge on in and demand answers when they're not even a part or assigned to the case, I'm sure Jack Newton is well within his right to simply inquire about other witnesses that were present. Let's put that into perspective, right? I'm sure most people will be able to understand it. We know outsiders won't, and they will throw the toys out the pram, might complain in the comment section, or they might run back to their master and then, moan about it. But, when it comes to Jack Newton at the time, a witness, yes or no? Well, at least for him, a witness to the after event of it. Jack's perception at first when he sees the truckers, the guys, witnesses present on scene, waiting about, having called the police supposedly. Well, they have called the police, 5:46, 5:53, Hudman and Hardy there. When Jack shows up, naturally, what goes through your mind will obviously be shock with knowing that it's Noah and how it impacts you, but what will also go through your mind is slight suspicion at first with the uncertainty of what's happened to Noah, but then also the uncertainty as, these truckers, how long have they been there for? How long, and what did they see? What do they know of? Are they responsible? Do they know of anything? That's what could be racing through Jack's mind. I know you could argue and say, well, in the moment, why didn't Jack interact with both guys then? Why did he just focus in on one? I guess it was Tyler Hardy. Well, probably because there's a lot going on in the moment and in the brain. The mind is full. Jack going up close, either asking or being asked, who are you? And Jack mentioning, I'm the best friend to Noah, this person here. That communication and understanding, hence why Jack wasn't told to leave or walk away. At that point, there wasn't a big crowd or audience, but by the time Cade and Pressy had showed up, right, I know it's not 5:15, but if you think of 6 a.m. for the Hudman-Hardy connection in a way, and onwards, if Cash Alsop was there, hence the service truck which Caden saw. At the end of the day, when Caden showed up with Brylan, Isaac and Mikey providing its after and not around 5:27 because of that snap, more people show up, bigger crowd, bigger audience, bringing a bit of unwanted attention. Is it the right time or place? Whereas it's friends to Noah, to the truckers and so on, they may not know at the time and think, right, you need to back off. We don't want people rubbernecking. We don't want people hanging about, lurking. We need space, respect for the body and all of that. And Kane said he respects his elders, so he didn't put up a fight. He didn't stand his ground. He just walked away. But it makes sense for Jack Newton to remain because best friend to Noah and vice versa. You would stick around for your best friend, or it was a family member related by blood, you would stick around and you should be entitled to stay when it's one of your own, when it's someone you're very close to. You don't want to leave them, you don't want to walk away from them. So it makes sense as to why Jack was there and still remained. But with dealing with it all, the shock, the denial, the panic, the sadness, you might not consider asking everyone every question you can think of. You might just reach out to one person at a time and think that's good enough. But then later, in hindsight, you might think, yes, but what did Hudman see? Okay, they may have arrived kind of at the same time, but who passed by first? Was it Hudman? Well, he was the first caller, and likely, yeah. So what did Hudman see compared to Hardy? Are there any discrepancies? Any standout points? Did one see something the other one didn't? And so on. But you start thinking of all those questions after, when it may seem a bit too late. When in the moment they were all there in one place to reach out to and communicate, but then couldn't think at the time, may have gone a bit brain fog as well. So you don't really consider everything in the moment, but you might later upon reflection. But by then the people may be long gone or hard to reach. Has anyone reached out to Hoodman since? Who knows? Not seen any interviews, not seen any articles. It's been pretty quiet with Hoodman. Interesting, but maybe they chose to stay quiet to avoid any unwanted attention and drama. Some have said that Tyler Hardy was communicating on social media, however, at some point had to take a step back and chose to go quiet because of being attacked and questioned too much by people online. Well, that's typical. Some of the general public, depending what side they come from, rushing on in like a bull in a china shop, same as usual, high expectations, high demands, and entitlement, and it eventually leads to pushing away the one source of information where you could have learned things from. People act reckless, and it leads to bridges being burnt down, and then it ruins it for everyone else. And that's happened more than once. Typical, isn't it? So it's unfortunate. Will the person ever reach out again? Probably not. Did Jack Newton ever successfully contact Tyler Hoodman? Who knows? It's not really been made clear. But at the time, or days on, wanting to know is a very normal human response. A tragedy, an incident, accident, the loss of someone, you're not there originally, you're there after to pick up the pieces of what happened, where, why, how, the timing, any foul play or not, and more. When you're picking up the pieces, it's because you don't have the full jigsaw puzzle. You're dealing with fragments and memories, trying to arrange it and make sense of what it means and how it played out. And if you don't have all of the pieces, it's not going to be complete. You're still going to be left scratching your head. So at some point you might inquire about trying to get more answers or reaching out to another person, whether that be all in the moment or onwards. It is normal. It's a very normal behavioral trait, and just biologically, mentally wanting to know what happened, finding that closure to know what ultimately happened. And at times, finding closure can bring peace of mind, and obviously that's what people would want, because without it, it can be quite an uncomfortable experience. And yeah, some occasions a person may have to find closure in other ways, but with Jack Newton, around witnesses who may have known more or seen something that he didn't because they were there earlier, it's normal in wanting to follow it up. Not everything has to be suspicious, but, you know, in terms of being seen as, what do they call it, an FBI agent, I think that's just light-hearted, a bit joking, bit of an exaggeration, though, on the same way of putting it, because just simply asking about, it's just a normal thing to do. It's a normal human response, and especially if it's someone that you know, asking about for answers, nothing wrong with that. But people are obviously suspicious of Jack Newton because of a long-standing emotional charge against or towards him, and how he's been presented online, and maybe at times some of his discrepancies. It's not all one-sided, but different things have contributed and different factors have led to people being a bit suspicious of Jack. But from the looks of it, based on the manual script of the maybe Army page and elsewhere, it's perfectly okay to think the worst in Jack Newton, the best friend of Noah. It's perfectly okay and acceptable to question and doubt what Jack Newton says. Oh, but if Caden Pressey says anything, you have to believe him 100%. As in the truth, and whatever he says, he means. And if you do try questioning it, you're a bad person. If you do try interpreting the words, which are very vague to begin with, it makes you very manipulative and vindictive. That is the pathetic mindset of people out there that will label you this and that for just simply being curious and questioning. Oh, but they can make their minds up about other people, and that's normal, that's fine and acceptable. One rule for some, a different rule for others. Very hypocritical and massive double standards. But would you expect any different from people like that? Exactly. And I'm sure in your mind you can think of prime examples of people that demonstrate those examples and traits and behaviour. But the other little mention, the LE finally taking over now and moving along now. Well, the LE were always there, and in regard to talking about things moving forwards now and LE finally taking over, I mean, it doesn't really make any sense that, because a few months back it was, well, OSBI, I believe, still to do with police authorities, OSBI. I think it was in regard to the subpoena and in court when going through the evidence and the investigative material by OSBI and OHP, it was mentioned that OSBI have finally, as in back then, closed the investigation. Now, some people interpreted it as closing the case as well, done deal. How I saw it and how it was worded, closing the investigation part, as in collecting evidence, finding leads, questioning people and all that. Material that had been collected was more than enough, so they closed it for that part. And then I guess waiting for the next stage to transition on to. Yes, it's kind of movement forward, but closing it can be a double-edged sword. It can imply that there is a level of confidence and certainty that they've got what they needed and it's enough now to continue. But the double edge is it might not be enough and it might seem abrupt. Coming to a close, it feels like there's not enough justice, or it feels like they've given up. You can interpret it in different ways, of course. But what happens next, who knows? Officially and publicly, we've not really seen that much going on by the hands of the police, OSBI, OHP. It's gone quiet. It's like a wall of silence. There could well be things moving slowly in the background, but we just don't know of it, and we've not seen any hard evidence of it. So we can't instantly assume and think that there is movement, because if we can't see the movement, how are we supposed to know or believe? Maybe Noah's family will know, but they've not really shared anything with us. Every true crime case can be different. The process, the speed it takes, and then the communication, not just from the police, but the communication from the family. Are any, what do you call them, online post interviews and stuff like that done public? Not really, or not at all. So kind of left in the dark to guess and maybe hope. And that's just not good enough. The other part there, BBC, we might as well mention that whilst we're here, that she saw pictures and videos which have never been seen or been made public. Interesting. Pictures and videos from what? The party house, events and moments, the side-by-side rollover, after effects of that. I think it was BBC that mentioned about there was footage of Caden Pressey in helping rolling the side-by-side back over. Caden said he don't remember that, and others say that's all false. But if BBC states it or suggests it, and she's also said that she has seen videos and photos which other people haven't, which haven't been made public, there is a chance that maybe she does know more than others. And what she says could be true. But are you expected to believe in it with absolute confidence? No. If evidence is shared, hard evidence public, well, then you can make your mind up, truly, and reach a conclusion. But for as long as it's said in words and not through hard evidence, it's just, you could say hearsay, right? It's hearsay based on what Caden says at times because he doesn't back it with hard evidence. It could be hearsay based on what BBC says. It's nothing personal. It's just trust. And in true crime, some people can be a bit wary. Not personal towards a specific person in the case, but what may have happened earlier with other people. What may have happened previous in life where trust was broken or someone promised a lot and underdelivered, that can stay with a person to protect themselves, protect their peace, protect their disappointment, and all of that. Sometimes it's easy to just listen, take it into consideration, don't dismiss it, but don't internalize it either. Consider, don't ignore, but don't internalize until you see the hard evidence yourself. And for the bearer or the gatekeeper of information and evidence, depending on whether they can share it public or not, if they can't, there's not much they can do about it. But if someone can share, but they choose not to, they shouldn't be in a position where they get annoyed or frustrated that others won't believe in their words. It's like times where I can show evidence. If I say it first or I do a preview, I'll back it up with the hard evidence when I can and when it's possible. I'm not going to sit down and say, right, you've got to believe in everything that I say, and if you don't believe in it through my words, then you're manipulative and vindictive. I even said in the earlier days when it came to some never seen before screenshot conversations, which at the time may have not been possible to share, so I did a summary based on what I witnessed, relaying it to you, and I clearly said, you don't have to believe in what I say. I witnessed it firsthand, but I know you've not got that opportunity. So if you are doubtful or skeptical, that's normal, that's fine. That is the attitude what most people should have. It would lower a lot of tension and unnecessary falling outs, etc. This isn't directly in regard to BBC, but I'm talking about the backstory in general behind why some people won't take a person's words as the absolute truth, that they need more because they've been let down previous or they've been deceived previously by the hands of other people. And to be honest, in the Noah Presgrove case, it has been like that at times. What about Dina Rose and the coven of people? Big flash text, capital letters, red flags, exclamation marks, coming to a head, truth coming out by the end of the week, videos, recordings of a beatdown and JJ and this and that. Never was shown, never was actually made clear. It was just all words and that was it, not good enough. But it hyped the situation up and it rose people's expectations and people did fall for it and believe in it. And then when it couldn't be backed up and there was no hard evidence, people were let down, deceived, disappointed and screwed over. It can cause trust issues, like a roller coaster ride, and you see how it follows onwards with time. But I am interested, I don't know if Brooke Bounds Carter is watching right now, but in terms of the pictures and videos that she has seen, can any of it be made public? Or can any of it be made public if done appropriately, as in if you wanted to reach out to me and go from there, like in other situations with other people when it came to the snaps of Carter Combs, Logan Jernigan, or Mikey Lair in bed at 5:27, or the Pepe Guam video, material like that. At the end of the day, I'm not too sure that comment by BBC, if it was recent or in the past. If it's in the past, it could overlap with what's been released since the Never Seen Before material, in which I was the first person to debut it publicly, within reason. If it's an overlap, it's an overlap. It may not be relevant now. But if it's more recent, the comment, I said I'm not confident, but if it's more recent, maybe BBC does know more and has seen more, but ultimately the real question is, what exactly? Is it to do with the highway? Is it to do with the party? Is it a combination? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it harmless? Does it involve Noah? Does it involve other people? Any particular events? Any rollover? Any link to Caden? The claim of Caden helping rolling it over and all of that? It would be interesting. If any of it can be released, but it needs to be done appropriately, you know who to reach out to. Warlight Ref, links are on my channel page, all over the place. Because, just as a heads up, the way this case has gone and been handled previously, and how other people have messed about and were dilly-dallying all over, the execution wasn't there, the consideration wasn't there, bridges were burned. You need something to be provided for and against in a balanced way, a steady, stable approach. You reach out to me if you can, if you want, and if there is material within reason and it can be shown and all that. Some people can be reluctant to share because they don't trust anyone, and that's normal. Some people can be reluctant to post something because they don't want backlash, or they may not know how to get the point across clearly. That's why the presence of another person can help. So we'll see what happens and go from there. But it is interesting. And BBC also saying, I know a lot that hasn't been made public in general. Okay, kind of eye-opening in a way. Doesn't mean to say it's suspicious, it could just be more innocent stuff. But for it to be such material that can't be made public or previously not be made public, there's got to be a level of importance and relevance to the case and Noah's death, I guess. If it can't be released, it must be very sensitive. So what does that say exactly? Now, to refer back to Caden Pressey, because that's why we're here, one of the points made by Tracy, what would have happened if Caden remained at the highway? So let's just say that Caden was there from 5:21 in the morning to 5:30. Caden was told to leave at 5:30 by a guy with a beard, I believe, or some kind of beard. Don't know if Caden had mentioned he was in a high-vis jacket. I know Tyler Hardy said he saw someone in a high-vis jacket and telling a person to leave the highway. But in Caden's timeline, it wouldn't add up because Tyler was there onwards, such as 6 in the morning. Caden was there earlier. So how could they see one another? How could they cross paths? Different timelines, different moments at the same location, different sets of people present, supposedly. That's what makes it a little bit unusual, but also interesting. As said, in regard to Caden being told to leave, respecting the elders, a bit of swearing going on with the guy, whoever it was. If we had to guess who it could have been, well, if it's a person of a shorter height, if they were wearing a high-vis jacket and if they did have a beard or stubble, and as Caden said, there was a service truck, well, adding it all together, Cash Alsup, Chief Volunteer Firefighter, did have a bit of a beard, was on the shorter side and stocky in build, which I think Caden described, stocky, service truck, high-vis jacket. It kind of ticks all the boxes. Quite similar to the description of Cash Alsup. Caden didn't know the names of the people, so is it possible that one of which was Cash Alsup? But if it was, Cash got there at 6 in the morning onwards. That wouldn't align with Caden's timeline. It would make Caden's timeline possibly incorrect. But then you got to also consider Tyler Hudman and Hardy when they showed up at first, and they said, more so Hardy, we got there first, no sign of anyone else. If Caden and the guys had left at 5:30, and Caden had mentioned, well, Jack remained there and 2 of the guys, service truck, semi-truck, well, how come Tyler Hardy and Hudman didn't drive past or park up next to Jack, next to the other truckers, like different pairs all meeting up all at once as Caden departs? Likely because that didn't happen. It was all the same people, but Caden just didn't know the names, with the exception of Jack. But then again, it had been mentioned that when Jack showed up, it was 6 in the morning onwards. If Caden Pressey was to show up, what time would that be then? Instead of 5:15, what, 6:15? But then would that mean, well, no, not 6:15, apologies about that. If the hour hand was incorrect, but the minute hand was correct, let's just say as a guess, instead of arriving at 5:21, what, Caden showed up at 6:21 and left at 6:30? See, some of that just wouldn't make sense. Well, maybe it doesn't make sense because it's not really been considered that much before. Let me know your thoughts. If 5:15 timeline is incorrect, if 5:21 arriving there was incorrect and leaving at 5:30 is incorrect, you give me an estimate of what time you think Caden actually showed up and the time he actually left or was told to. It is a bit of a coincidence how earlier on Caden is told by someone to leave, and then later Tyler Hardy notices a guy in a high-vis jacket, similar build, telling someone to leave. It is a coincidence. Maybe it's all the same situation and same people. It's just that Hardy was at a distance, Caden was at a distance, didn't see one another. Who knows? It's worth considering. What would have happened if Caden remained and did not move, if he stood his ground? Well, if Caden remained, and supposedly police had already been called before Caden had showed up at 5:21, well, they'd be waiting, wouldn't they? Just round it down to 5:20. They'd be waiting about 26 minutes of nothing. The 26 minutes in of waiting about, Hudman Hardy comes on down, supposedly, then makes the calls. Caden would then be introduced to Tyler Hardy and Tyler Hudman, but then also the service truck driver, whoever that is, and the semi-truck. There's two lots of semi-truck drivers all meeting one another, all getting together. Really? It would have been interesting, in a way. Caden remaining would then, if Caden remained based on his timeline, would he have then acknowledged that he would have seen Hardy and Hudman? He would have seen another set of truckers coming on down. If he didn't, and he never acknowledged that, then maybe the whole 5:15 is completely wrong and off, and it's out by an hour, maybe. Very strange. I mean, I said in the past that when Caden had showed up, did he make a call to police? I don't think so. Is that normal? Yeah. Because if you're the last one there, or you're not the first one there at least, you're going to assume that the person that first showed up and noticed it would have made the call to police, to the correct services. Okay? If you wonder what the tapping sound is in the background, it's just rain and hail upon the glass, just so you know. It's raining at the moment, it's quite heavy. But beside that, Caden Pressey showing up, already expecting that, the calls would have been made by the people there, whether that be Jack, whether that be some of the truckers. I mean, ultimately, if the dispatch calls were present and documented from 5:46 onwards, and 5:46 is the first caller, what does that say about Caden Pressey's timeline? If he was told, or if he assumed other people made the call earlier on, it would mean that they never made a call earlier on. Caden assumed other people did, I guess. Caden wasn't the first one there. If Caden was the first one at the scene, you would expect him to make the call, but he wasn't the first one there. I mean, there's so many contradictions and overlaps that it'd probably take too long and cause just confusion. So we don't need to look at everything possible, like the overlaps of some of the timestamps. I mean, in a way, there is more evidence, more hard evidence that goes against Caden and overlaps with his timeline and contradicts it, compared to the actual hard evidence, which there isn't really any hard evidence whatsoever publicly which supports Caden and the 5:15 timeline, from what I can remember. People are going to throw their toys out the pram for that point made, but it's an observation, that's it. If you don't understand the observation, then likely you're emotionally charged and throwing your toys out the pram, and we know who those people are, let's just put that clearly, but there might be other strangers out there that may not see it. There is hard evidence that shows Mikey wasn't at the highway at the given time that Caden described he was with. There are transcripts and official police calls made by Hardy and Hudman, and the timings of them and what was said in the content doesn't acknowledge anything to do with Caden being present, or seeing Caden on the way back, or even Jack still being there and the other truckers that Caden acknowledged that were there when he left at 5:30. Hardy and Hudman said that they were the first ones there. From 5:30 to 5:46, a very small time frame window for people to just up and go without making a call. And then 10 minutes later onwards, then a different wave of people come along and decide to make a call. If that was all the case somehow in such a weird order, it would mean Jack didn't make a call to police. It would mean the service truck driver didn't make a call to police. It would mean the semi-truck driver didn't make a call to the police. It would make them all somewhat a bit suspicious and a little bit guilty. It just is unusual, very. If Caden had stuck around, what are the chances that anything would change? If Caden stuck around, Caden would be able to acknowledge if certain people showed up, like Renee Millan passing on by, or Caleb showing up and maybe picking or dropping the tooth off, or Dalen, Presgrove and Victor showing up later. If Caden remained there all the way through, he would have seen it all. But I want to ask you, and we can do it as a poll. If Caden remained, he would have seen more, he may have remembered more, and he would have had a lot more to say. But would that change, all the discrepancies? Would it improve the accuracy, or would it follow the same pattern? More discrepancies on top of more discrepancies. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Caden, remained there, he saw more, and then he says, oh yeah, Renee did show up, but, it was like 5 in the morning, it was 7, it was 10 in the morning, and Victor and Dalen showed up, but that was 12 in the morning. It was 11:46 a.m. What? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But I'm just giving you an example. I wouldn't be surprised if the more Caden was to witness and to see, the more discrepancies that would be present. Because for what he did see, for what he did witness, for what he did see or hear at any point at the party onwards, it was followed by discrepancies and more discrepancies. Not ideal. If Caden knew any more, saw any more, the pattern of discrepancies would likely follow in line as well. If you agree or not, let me know. Maybe there's a poll. If I've set one up, feel free to vote on it. It should be in the live chat if it's there. I don't think that much good would come from it if Caden remained. That's my thoughts at this moment in time. Anyway, beside that, we need to head back onto the other screenshots of conversations and other interesting posts which have come about just recent. Let's head on over. So, do you remember this? This was originally taken from another phone of Caden's phone screen because Caden didn't want to alert Jack that he was taking screenshots of the conversation. At the time, Caden's girlfriend, used their phone to take photos of this phone screen. Just so you know, that's why there's a bit of a reflection and glare on it. And then that photo was sent about in the background. And we've done coverage on it previously, but the reason why I'm showing this is as a counterpoint, looking at it from the other perspective, like what Tracy was suggesting. Why is Jack inquiring and asking other people, for answers and wanting to know what's up? And, well, Jack technically did that with Cade and Pressy, but they've already talked about it in the past, in the early days. But Jack wanted to follow up again at some point in 2024, Friday at 12:13 p.m. And that was when Caden was with his girlfriend and JJ Bumpaz, and JJ Bumpaz with his girlfriend Logan Jernigan at the time inside the diner, as I said earlier. And Jack just randomly reached out to Caden, and it reads, "Hey Caden, I just wanted to ask you some questions." And Caden, "Yo, wages up, what?" Right. Jack, "I've been hearing all kinds of stuff, man. Just tell me your point of view on the night and morning and timelines." Wow. Jack actually mentions it as the morning of Noah's death, and yet everyone else, well, not everyone, a handful of people since have referred to the night of Noah's death. It's the morning. Even Jack acknowledges it here. Wow. Anyway. And did you really say on a podcast, Parts in True Crime, that you were scared because you could be next? I just thought I'd ask you before I got upset because there are so many rumours going around. Now, in the past, people interpreted the line of Jack saying, "I thought I'd ask before I get upset." People saw that as threatening behaviour. It was like an early warning, foreshadowing, "Hey, Caden, give me your point of view. tell me it again what you originally said, because if you don't, it's going to make me upset, and you don't want that. People saw that as aggressive and dark by Jack. But really, if that is a threat, I'd like to see what like a real dark threat is then. Look, getting upset can be a mixture of emotions. Upset is an umbrella term for being sad, crying, being angry, being frustrated, being passive-aggressive. It comes in different ways. People react in different ways, but being upset isn't linear. It isn't just one-sided being sad. It can be angry or quietly frustrated. It's different for everyone. So Jack's saying, before I get upset, you could interpret that however you like, but it's not definitively clear. It's vague. So you can't ultimately say it's a threat by Jack Newton, right? But Caden did respond back, and I believe it's on the next page. Oh, that's the other half of it. So first of all, Caden says, zoom in, it's a bit hard to read. Before you get upset? Really, bro? Oh no, what's this all bro thing? Did Justin Roy learn that from Caden Pressey? Yo bro, trust me bro. Oh, it's just so cringe. It's like, you know, online when strangers and degenerates on TikTok respond back to me, have the cheek to respond back to me and say, bro, or this or that, brother. And I'm like, I am not your brother. I am not related to your incompetent bloodline. Get your filthy hands metaphorically off me, cretin. And beside that, when mortal humans call me bro, do I look like I am your bro? You are a stranger to me, and based on your behaviour, it may remain like that. Good day. Moving on. Caden says, really, bro? I should be the one upset. Why? And I am you. Oh, goodness, the language here. Maybe Justin did get a few spelling lessons from Caden. Telling people I'm messaging you to be friends again. I'm begging you to be friends, and you know that's not true. What I said on the podcast was it could have been me, like it could have been me instead of Noah. I'm not really worried about anyone hurting me, just saying I'm afraid of finding out my friends aren't really my friends. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. This isn't about me or you. This is about Noah. You want my point of view, my timeline. Jack, you were there. You don't need my point of view or timeline. You know when you bursted through the door. Right, so this is an interesting conflict of crossroads. Jack appears insecure and needs constant reassurance from Caden Pressey. As for the timeline and the recounting of it, because Jack doesn't believe in what Caden says, or Jack is hoping that Caden changes it from what he said originally, or that Jack is trying to see if there's any slip-ups or contradictions. But then Caden Pressey is being awkward like Justin Roy, as in just responding back with vague responses, or responding back with passing on the buck responsibility of, yeah, but you already know, you've already heard it, you don't need to hear it anymore, I'm not going to do it. So basically, Caden is not following through with the request to Jack Newton. Is there any place or time where it could have been done or considered? Would it have led to a different outcome? If a person is insecure and in a toxic way, you're never going to be able to convince them or change their mind or way of thinking. But in the case here, you got Jack Newton, whether he's struggling at the time or not, wanting answers, double checking. I mean, psychologically speaking, it can happen, just in general in life. You could be told something, you could reach out to someone, you hear the truth, or the supposed truth, but you might not believe in it. Your brain may not process it the first time round, so you've got to listen to it again, and then maybe again, and that can be with many people in life, whether that be first-hand accounts, conversation one-on-one, digitally on screen, piece of evidence, you see it once, you read it, you process, it goes in one ear, comes out the other, or it doesn't stick, you question it, you doubt it, because the void is sensitive and it needs filling, and when it is filled, it might be a truth that a person doesn't want to hear or believe in, or the denial counters it, so it's dismissed, and then the person craves for that reassurance again and again. So they ask again, is that what Jack Newton was demonstrating? Who knows? But it's worth considering. But, you know, what this is like a Mexican standoff without any Mexicans present in this case, where one person's asking or demanding for this, the other person is just saying, yeah, but you've already seen it. You don't need to see it again. That's deflection. What Caden Pressey is doing is deflection. Whilst it might be true, Caden has said what he said, lays his cards out on the table to those people, including Jack, once before. It doesn't need to be done again. But then again, it's like if you're playing an activity or playing some kind of bet or gambling or anything, and you win or you do what you do, and people are like, oh, best of 3, best of 4, one more time, let's give it another go. The other person says, nah, I've already done it. I don't need to do it again. It's a bit of deflection. In that case, it's maybe because the person got lucky and they know they can't chance it again because it might go wrong. In the case here with sharing information or an account point of view, Caden has said what he said before, but he's not willing to share it again to Jack because in his defence, Jack already knows of it. But if you wanted to settle a best friend or a former best friend and their mind at ease, you would look beyond your own feelings and you'd set their mind at ease, providing it's not already been done before. If it's already been done before on multiple occasions, it's not going to change this time round. It'll be a broken record, so I'd understand why Caden wouldn't give the story again. But just, I mean, he might mention it on the next slide when we get to it, because I can't remember the full convo, but just in this moment, that halting, that crossroad of, oh, you demand for this, I'm not going to give it to you. My excuse is, I've already told you. There's something about that in life where it's happened once, but it won't be done again. It won't be replicated or repeated. It just feels like stubborn behaviour, and sometimes stubborn people can be a little bit dodgy at times. Worth questioning, right? But moving on. Continuing on all the way down. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. I mean, considering that Caden was one suggesting that I'm worried that I might find out my friends aren't really my friends because they're responsible for Noah's death in some way, that in itself single-handedly would break friendships up and best friends. If you think or consider that someone that you're close to or know could be responsible for Noah's death, I mean, if it turned out to be true, you got good instinct, of course. But if they're innocent, just imagine the friends, the connections that have been broken and lost along the way. What a load of damage that would cause. Okay, there's been mentions that Alicia's influence dictating who Caden should talk to and shouldn't, cutting ties with friends, that being a part. But from the looks of it, Caden's own doing and beliefs in the Parts in True Crime interview to what's even said here is probably a catalyst as for why friendships and ties were broken up and cut up, and so on. So people have lost out in different ways. Noah's life has been lost, but relationships and friendships have been lost along the way since. There can be collateral damage, in a way. But beside that, you want my timeline, you already know when you saw it bursting through the door, you know me, Mikey, Isaac and Sweat followed you, and you know it was dark as beep, only the service truck and the box semi. Box semi. What's a box semi? I've heard of a semi truck, but not a box semi. Is it an alternative type of truck without a trailer? If anyone can tell me in the comments, that would be very helpful. So they were there, but nowhere have I seen you say this, not to anyone. You know, we all got out and you know who was there, so why aren't you telling the truth, man? This really sucks. Just tell the truth, bro. I'm sorry, but if we didn't know that this was coming from Caden, the way I'm reading this sounds identical to the way Justin Roy types. It's actually, in a very creepy way, very similar. You know, the way Caden types and the words that he uses sounds very similar to Justin Roy. Not the same person, but very similar in communication styles. There might be an influencer effect that's caused that. This is very interesting. I'm picking up on some things here. But Ken says it was very dark, which would imply it was earlier on in the day, more so Caden's timeline of 5:15. But Jack's point of view was 6 in the morning onwards. But when Caden says, Jack, you need to tell the truth, as in who was there and what was really going on, does Caden mean that Jack needs to say what Caden has stated? And that's it. Or that there's more to it which Jack isn't letting on and Caden either knows or doesn't know but senses that something is off. But it's like passing on the buck responsibility. Yeah, I know the truth and I know this and that, but I shouldn't have to prove it to you again. I've already told you, so I'm not going to tell you again. This is, at the time, a private conversation, but Caden felt the need on behalf of someone to share it because Caden had mentioned, well, whether it be directly posted by Caden or on behalf of someone else, Caden was okay with this being shared public. Caden got these photos, not from screenshots, because that would alert the other person, Jack. Caden got his girlfriend to take the photos on another phone of the screen. Covert, but okay with it being public. Well, it was okay with it being public. It's a shame there's not more context here. It's more vague, more stubborn, more, I know this, but I'm not going to tell you again. I know this, but I'm not going to tell you again, but I'm not going to tell the general public either, because actually this conversation is going to be screenshotted in some way and it's going to be posted online publicly. But I'm going to play dumb, I'm going to play vague and stubborn. Yeah, it doesn't really help anyone, that. Only the time of day or the lighting is really anything mentioned. Look there, you can see they're in a restaurant or a diner, because you can see behind the phone there's a QR code and a menu from the looks of it. And that reflection is Caden Pressey's girlfriend at the time holding her phone towards Caden Pressey's phone, as you see on screen there. On Snap, says Jack Newton, and Jack says, I need said you're begging to my friend. Oh my goodness, what does that even mean? This ain't you, Pressey. Never not need. What? But you've got the times all wrong. When y'all came to the scene, it was light outside, ask Sweat, and all of them. And all Caden says was, that really bothers me, man, that you're saying that. It was light outside, man. Okay. This is yet another thing. How Caden responds is very similar to how Justin Roy responds. A possible valid point or a counter question is issued. In this case, it's, your time's wrong, and anyway, you need to ask Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, and Isaac Rojas, as in what they would say. Supposedly, what they would say is what I'm saying, Caden. And what does Caden say in response to that particular? That bothers me that you're saying it was light. So Caden avoids in answering to Jack when he said, ask Brylan, ask this person, ask that person for a second opinion. Caden skips past that suggestion and just says a default line. That's something that Justin Roy would do too, where you give a question or you give an alternative, you give a response, and what do? They completely skip that, deflect. That's a psychological self-defense mechanism response of avoidance and changing the subject. Very typical behaviour. What good does it do? Not much good. Do we learn much from it? Not in that sense, but do we gain suspicions within people? Absolutely. Can that be with innocent people too? Absolutely. Innocent people can be innocent, but how they present themselves can be seen as very questionable, but it's on them based on how they behave and interact. If they don't want to appear suspicious and they're innocent, then they should act innocent, appear innocent, and be totally innocent, not hide anything in that sense, and be clear and have good communication. We don't see that enough, do we? But beside that, in terms of communication and language and wording, I've got some bad news for everyone. It doesn't get any better. It only gets worse from now in this video. Because here we go. We got Carolyn Pope Joy. No joy, just, denial or non-acceptance. This is a comment in regard to my video, which was shared by someone on Facebook. The video that I did yesterday, I believe, to do with the black shorts, the long black shorts, the white shorts. It was an all-in-one masterpiece video of where I debunked, second time round, the so-called footage of Noah's shorts caught on camera damaged. Now, in my title, I worded it as a question, because people were saying it as a statement and a suggestion that they were damaged in Caden's footage on the porchway patio, the patio area at 1:05 in the morning when Brylan slapped Noah and Noah appeared to have damage to his shorts. I knew it was his pocket and I knew it was a can inside, but I did a video in following up to the questions people had. I used part of people's words and language as part of the title to engage in a conversation, a debate and analysis, and I even used an appropriate question mark too to imply, is there really damage caught on camera? And what does Carolyn, the incompetent tool, do? They say, I'm sorry, but I see no damage to those shorts. He's got a beer or can in his pocket, and for the back left of the shorts, no damage, just maybe dirty. Get a magnifying glass and look at that picture. Shaking my head. It was okay up until they said shaking my head. Oh, Carolyn, are you so disappointed? Oh, poor Carolyn is disappointed. Shaking her head. Make sure you don't shake your head too much. You might lose all your marbles. Unless they're already gone. Either way, Carolyn says, what some people will post is just crazy. I mean, no disrespect to you, Joyce, but there is nothing here. No disrespect to Joyce Begau that showed the video, but calling other people and their ways as crazy, which could be interpreted aimed at me because the video was created by me. But Carolyn, your conclusion is basically what I said in my video if you bothered to watch. But as we know, Carolyn, it wasn't that long ago when you said, I don't watch Warlight Raft's videos anymore because it's the same mould. It's not good enough. I don't even watch them. I don't even touch them. I don't even look at those videos. Whenever anything like that is shared or posted online, I just avoid it. Oh, but by the way, I love commenting on the post and talking all about it. You're contradicting yourself, Carolyn, right? You come to a certain conclusion, you also shake your head in a petty, passive-aggressive way, calling people crazy for posting and posting. It was an analysis, it wasn't a definitive conclusion in regard to how it's titled. But Carolyn, typical Carolyn, judging a book by its cover without reading through the pages. The only person that should be judging a book by the cover is the damn author. And you're no author, Carolyn. Not a chance. So either you bothered to watch the video and take it in consideration and then come to a conclusion, or you don't bother at all, right? We don't need your attitude on top of earlier on. Do better or don't bother at all. Simple as. And as well, people should understand by now the titles of my videos can be quotes from what other people say, conversations and discussions of a matter, and then I respond back to it in the video. If I'm using a question mark in the title of my video, that is a major thing. It's to protect myself, it's to protect the case, and it's to look into the possibilities. A question is a question at the end of the day. Look for the question marks, look for the explanation marks, look for the quotation marks. Look, use your eyes for once in your life. If you're a pope and you're full of joy, make use of it and stop being incompetent, okay? Moving on. What else do we have? Oh, it just gets worse. So Justin here, well, let's just see. Let's just read it. Just take in mind, the context of this comment by Justin was on my video in regard to Caden Pressey, where I used a question mark as in proof of emergency services or ambulance present, because Caden had said in his words that EMS were present, emergency medical services. Yes, it incorporates volunteer firefighters, paramedics, ambulance, etc. It's a collective term. It's an umbrella term. I made that clear in my video. I didn't say definitively that it's 100% confirmed. It's all about ambulances, but Caden implies that it could be based on his vague language and wording. That's on him, not me. I'm interpreting with what we've got, and so is everyone else. And Justin, of course, doesn't see it that way. Let's just read it. Let's read the incompetence. No ambulance was on scene. Several people on scene said no ambulance was called out. So where is the evidence of that, Justin? You keep saying several people or this person, that person, no name mentioned, party goers, I've reached out, I've done this, I've done that. There's a lot of talk. There's not enough action, Justin. There's a lot that you may know of, but we're not seeing it applied as in hard evidence. See, what separates me from everyone else in this world, and most humans in general, especially in this case, is I'll say what I say, but I will give the disclaimer that you don't have to believe in it if the evidence can't be provided, as in the material. But when I can and when able, I do, I deliver, I execute, and I do it just right. But Justin, an example of others people too, that they may know a lot or claim to know a lot or make lots of vague, indirect references of what happened, what the situation is, who knows what and all that, but no hard evidence or a lack of hard evidence is provided, and we have to believe in words, which is considered hearsay. And those same said people are all about having to go at others for hearsay. They do it themselves. Walking, talking, contradictions, hypocrites in general. But here we go. Justin does provide timestamps, so you'd think that he has listened properly this time. 40 seconds in. But you see how manipulative you are? Oh, so Justin is calling me manipulative. Well, that's one buzzword off the list. Typical Justin Roy, boring, broken record Roy, broke back Roy decides to use the word manipulative. Well, that's typical, isn't it? We've heard that mentioned many times before. It's a buzzword. And, you know, sometimes people will use words and lines in quirky ways because it feels good, it sounds good to them, they get a buzz, a kick out of it, but they might not know the actual meaning behind it. Just like how Jan Fiorillo decided to use the term dogging instead of dogged. Dogged is where you're relentless, you're determined and you don't give up, you keep on going. Dogging is where, you keep on going and you don't stop until you climax, because it's when you're doing it in a private area, which is intimacy, sexualized. There are different terms and different words, but clearly Jan Fiorillo didn't quite understand that. Oh, and what did all Americans say in defense? Well, dogging pretty much means dogged. It's the same thing. Is that really? Is that really? Well, we'll see, because how will you be dogged in nature, in communication and talking, when your mouth and other areas are occupied by other things? Incompetence to the highest order. There is a difference between dogging and doggedness. One can be a description of the behavioural traits of a person. The other is an actual activity and often illegal. Okay, we did an article, we looked at it. People got a bit, offended, or people got a little bit tense, people got a bit turned on, sexualised frustration. Why are you going about dogging and all this? Why are you saying it in the first place? Okay? Wretched, dogged humans. It's embarrassing. It really is. Anyway, moving back, Justin says, you are a psycho and vindictive. Whoa! Held on. Hey, we got a new word added in. Now being called a psychopath. Well, Justin, I'm glad you've been using the DSM-5 model and the ICD-10 model and anything else out there. You get secondary opinions, Justin. You've been pulling your certificates out. You've been doing your psychoanalysis to come to a conclusion saying that Warlight Raff is a psychopath, yet you've got absolutely no hard evidence of that. Oh, mental health diagnosis, Justin. Very interesting what you're doing. Are you even in a position to be doing that? No, I'm not going to say are you qualified or not, but what I am going to say is, are you experienced? Do you have the appliance to be able to do that or not? Because I think, Justin, you're using a lot of buzzwords because it sounds fancy and quirky and you've got nothing else to say, so you'll just resort to insults. When you resort to complete all-out insults and words like that, clearly shows, Justin, and like with any human, they've lost control of the situation, they've lost control of the argument, they've got nothing else to provide, they've got nothing else to contribute, so they'll just whinge and whine. Now, there's a difference between insulting and then being light-hearted, as like what I do to break through the darkness and negativity. I don't start off with insults, I defend myself against them, and then onwards I will use light-heartedness to break through the darkness, within reason and warranted. What Justin does is complains, whines, uses buzzwords, labels people as this and that, labels people as snakes, labels Brenda as being connected with partygoers and a cover-up, which is false, no hard evidence. Justin makes, whilst he might be on the receiving end of attacks, he himself doesn't do any better, because there have been times where he's used very reckless language and false labels, and I'm not saying it, but other people would argue slanderous claims. Hypocrite, right? But yeah, psychopath, vindictive, manipulative. What else do we have? Don't tell me we've got any more keywords. So within a few sentences, Justin has broken a new world record in saying a lot of words in a short space of time. We've almost got a full house. Bingo already. Wow. How embarrassing. Caden Pressey was obviously talking about the volunteer firefighters. Oh yeah, because talking about EMS, which is an umbrella term, obviously means it's the firefighters and no one else, not the ambulance. Oh yeah, really? Oh yeah, and talking about certain psychological issues, which could be an umbrella term, means, it's just one thing when it could be one of many, a symptom overlap. Oh yeah, Justin, come on. What are you doing? Really, what are you doing? There's no transcript of an ambulance either. Trust me. Well, you know what, Justin? One and others would trust you. However, your attitude, you've denied yourself the chance of people trusting you. The way you present yourself, you've denied yourself the chance of people considering you. That's on you. Your attitude, your behaviour is toxic. Okay? 207. Dude. Oh, dude? You're not calling me bro. I'm called dude now. What is this, some American thing? I am not your dude. I am not your bro. I am a person and stranger to you. Okay? Dude, you are just a manipulative person. Whoa, we're using that word all over again. Justin, why are you not using any other descriptive words to insult me? Why are you using the term manipulative? Can't you not think of a different word? Have you run out of words to say? Always trying to make Cade and Pressy and myself look bad. Oh, and Justin, often trying to make it all about yourself when this video was nothing to do with you, or mostly not to do with you, but yet you stepped on in. Because, what was it recently, Justin? You said about how, I only mainly come on in when, people start talking about me. Okay, you made a reference to a bit of Caden, but Caden is Caden. Caden is his own person, own individual, who can defend himself and think for himself. He doesn't need you controlling that situation. Because as Caden Pressey said in his own words, his mom and dad do too much talking on behalf of him that he wish they could cut it out. Maybe at times Caden would wish that for you too. Subconsciously. But what else do we have? Yeah, so Justin recently said, my name's brought up, it's all about me, then I'm going to come on in and start commenting. Well, Justin, this video wasn't about you, yet you still managed to make it about yourself. There's a lot of words that could be used to describe that type of behaviour, Justin. A lot. Anyway, what else is there? Make Caden and I look bad. The thing is, Justin, you make yourself look bad by your own incompetence and reckless language and wording. Do you act the way you do online in real life as well? Something tells me you don't. How you act in real life, you should be more like that online too. That's the way I say it. Caden Pressey was clearly talking, based on your emotional connection to Caden, you will interpret as clearly talking about firefighters, even though Caden didn't clearly say that. I look at it holistically. You don't, Justin. That's where the problem is. Then Justin says, you again are just causing reasonable doubt for a reason. Oh, Justin, once again, using his buzzwords and quirky lines. Reasonable doubt, that's said again. Broken record, as usual. You literally get your information from people related to the party, host, family, and want to keep this covered up. Justin, where do you get your information from? People from the party too. Just different angles and perspectives. My goodness, Justin. Oh, Justin! You say to me that I am getting information from people at the party and family and it wants to be covered up. Let's not forget, Justin, you get your information from unreliable sources at times and then you backpedal your way out after and say, oh, it wasn't me, it's what someone else told me. You know better, Justin. You call me for covering up the case. You're a part of causing confusion in the case because of your own reckless, incompetent language and trusting in people. Maybe you should actually question before you trust. You incompetent tool. You trusted George Choden and you felt you got stabbed in the back by him. He was a stranger to you, supposedly from, Canada, or wherever in the Maple Leafs and whatever else in between. You know what you should have done, Justin? You should have been careful. You shouldn't have been so naive. You don't look like a naive person in real life, yet online, what are you exactly? You know, are you like, sorry, I'm a little bit naive. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm just going to believe in anything that anyone says. My head is full of cotton wool, but I think the best in everyone. Oh my God. Later on when I regurgitate lots of BS and incorrect information, when I get called out, I'm going to say, oh my God, stop. It's not my problem. It's someone else's. Yeah, I spread the information and I spread the awareness that it's incorrect, but I'm going to defend myself right now because I'm not the one that created it. It was someone else. Someone else needs to be blamed for their recklessness. It's nothing to do with me. I'm just a victim at the end of the day. Oh my God, bless your cotton socks. Is that so? Really? It's just constant behaviour. Over and over again. Just so you know, Justin, the way you're behaving is exactly like how some people behaved in the Dylan Rounds case. Some of them, their behaviour in past wasn't positive. It's not good. It's really not good, any of this. I'm trying to cut through the darkness with a bit of lightheartedness if you hadn't figured it out. But Justin, there's just not much there, unfortunately. But one question I do have. Oh, is that so? Where was Brylan Red Mustang? Why didn't he drive that home? You know what, Justin? If you spent more time actually watching my videos and not having an emotionally charged obsession with me, you would know I've already done videos about Brylan, the Red Mustang, and why didn't he drive it home? So why are you asking those questions when I have already asked them myself, Justin? Look, listen, learn. Who would drive the Red Mustang sports car home then? Where did it go? Very, very weird. Why not cover that? Justin, you have got to be the biggest tosser about. I have done videos on that about a week or two ago. Why haven't you bothered watching them? Why have you not watched those videos, yet you seem to come to a conclusion that supposedly I have not covered that? The reality is, Justin, handfuls of things that you question and say I've not covered, I actually have. You just not bothered to watch. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to get a screenshot on screen right now, or if it's overlaid or not, but just know as a fact, it is on my channel. I have done coverage on it. So, Justin, you don't know what you're talking about at times. You don't know where you are at times. You assume something's not being done or covered when it actually has. You complain a lot. Basically, your emotional behaviour has blinded your spatial awareness. If you did less complaining and more listening, you would know what's being covered and what's being questioned if you bothered. I don't know if you regard yourself as an advocate for Noah Presgrove, but if you do, you're doing a terrible job in regard to the YouTube side because you're not willing to listen. You're not willing to open the mind like how I do. And that is an absolute embarrassment. Do you understand me, Justin? An absolute embarrassment. And I'll say it one more time because I know you like being a broken record. Do you understand me, Justin Roy? That what you whine about, what you complain about, and what you claim hasn't been covered in some areas has been. And what has been questioned, what you say, I've considered it too. You don't bother to look yourself. You just assume or think the worst, or You just don't think it's being covered. But it has. It's on my channel. You need to understand, Justin, you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of self-improvement. And I don't think you're ever going to get round to that. For as long as you're emotionally charged and emotionally obsessed with this channel, your ways will not change, as in online. It's disappointing to see. And in the presence of an advocate like that, I don't think Noah Presgrove would be proud of that. He would be embarrassed and ashamed, just like Melissa LeQuay that claimed to be an advocate, and look at how reckless they were in real life. You, Justin, your language and wording, specifically that, not real life, but online, is reckless in its own way, metaphorically speaking, as a microcosm for many other things. You might not understand that language, Justin. I don't expect you to, but that's just how it is. Observations are observations. And then you say, no ambulance was called out to confirm death. The ambulance would have gotten there before the volunteer firefighters, and 911 was called. Before 911 was called. Well, police dispatch. I don't know what the actual phone number is for police dispatch. Is it 911? Because if it was 911, wouldn't it be the process of witness calls police dispatch, tells them the news, police dispatch sends out a sheriff or whoever, but then also contacts either the volunteer firefighters or the ambulance to find out to know. Well, do you expect the ambulance to know before the police? But then that would obviously mean that the witness would have to call an ambulance before they call the police. Very interesting. Because phone calls were made way earlier, in my opinion. Oh no, Justin, that has to be one of the most reckless, most incompetent lines I've seen since. You state it because phone calls were made. Do you know what? I really don't understand why there is such a mental, psychological disconnect with language, wording, comprehension, and your brain, Justin. You said because phone calls were made way earlier in capital letters. That wording and language, because calls were made way earlier. The term were implies that that's exactly what happened. And then you finish it off with, in my opinion. You state a fact, you start it off as a fact, and you end it as, in my opinion. That is one of the most useless, worthless lines I've seen in a while. What you've just done there, Justin, is exactly what people in the Dylan Rounds case did. They worded it, they did paragraphs, they stated it as a fact, and at the end they said, in my opinion, or it might have happened that. You might as well save people the time and say, in my opinion, I think this happened. Start it off with an opinion if that's what it's going to end as, you incompetent human. How do you manage to mess that up, Justin? Seriously. Oh, hold on a minute. What was that just then? You know, it's funny. Justin talks a lot, yet he is the one that was told by some of Noah's family to take a step back. He is the one that was told by police to take a step back, interfering with the case. Justin, you say you're an advocate. You seem more like a troublemaker because you're getting on the police's bad books at times in the past, and even Noah's family. What good is that as an advocate? An advocate is supposed to be a good thing, a positive beacon in a case, not a bull in a china shop. You may want justice, but your entitlement at times is beyond ridiculous. The people that are entitled to justice and closure are Noah's own family. Family. Not a friend, a distant friend, but family are entitled to the answers. Noah's family. And then if the people are innocent, you could say Jack Newton because of best friends. And so on. At times, there are people that may know of someone in life to some extent, but maybe not super close. And that tether becomes intensified and beyond obsession when it comes to a tragedy. And now people step up. Oh yeah, know them really well, really tight-knit, really tight, really close and all that. I think that's exaggerated. I mean, people will say, you don't know Noah. True. I've never let on that I knew him in the first place, you incompetent plank. Oh, and you know why it's a good thing that I don't know the person? It's because if I don't know who they are, I don't have an emotional connection. And if I don't have an emotional connection, my judgment will not be blinded. I will look at it holistically, and I'll look at the truths, I'll look at the alternatives, and I'll look at the darkest points which other people are too afraid to look at and consider. Justin, would you honestly say that you can look at this case holistically? For and against. Can you honestly say that? Really? Moving on. Ashley Chadwick back in, I think, 2024. Let's just read it out. Ashley Chadwick, when talking about Justin Roy, when responding to another viewer, commenter, Ashley said, "We didn't even know Justin Roy until this all happened, first off. Secondly, even Madison Rawlings, Noah's sister, was like, family friend? He's never been around our family outside of some wrestling match." Now, this is in the past. Things have changed since. But for Justin to act the way he does, all big, all boisterous with his gob and his head, and yet some of Noah's family, Ashley Chadwick, Noah Presgrove's cousin, had said, "We didn't even know who Justin Roy was until all this happened." And secondly, Noah's sister, Madison Rawlings, was like, family friend? Justin, he's never been around our family outside of some wrestling match. My aunt didn't even know who Justin was. Hell, not even Noah's sister. So there's that. Keith knew of Justin just because of school events. Thirdly, there were things that were leaked along with some false information, and who caught the hell of that shit? Us. Fourth, Noah did live with my aunt, and she is beyond appreciative of the tireless work we have done, and who said I'm the one kicking and blocking people. Funny how people know everything, guessing because it's on my post, so I get that by default. Kristen Smith hasn't overstepped in this. We, Noah's family, have asked Justin Roy to back off due to the behind-the-scene chaos that was created and the hell that has came with it. Oh, Justin, advocate, justice, good guy, and yet some of Noah's family members at some point in the past didn't have much positive to say about you. There is one thing you should not get to in any true crime case. It's the point where the police tell you to stop or have a go at you, or when the victim's family speaks negative of you. When you cross that line and when they say what they say, you have definitely messed up as the biggest tool about. I can say with absolute confidence and ironclad certainty, and I tell you, if you question it, you best well look back and reflect 110% on over 3,000 videos of mine before you even do anything whatsoever. With absolute ironclad confidence within this whole world and stratosphere that I have never gotten on the wrong side of the police or the victims' families in any case that I have covered. Every single case that I have covered, 110% positive feedback, absolute positivity from the people or the friends of the family within these different cases. Not once has anyone related to the case family-wise ever told me to take a step back, and that is why I'm still here. I have said with every single case that I cover, I will stop if the police say so. I will stop if the victim's family say so. And guess what? 550 videos into this case, no one has told me to stop, so I must be doing the right thing. Dylan Round's case, 500 videos made in total, not once did anyone tell me to stop. Kenny Veach case, over 500, 600 videos, not a single person has told me to stop. The Christine Passe Parker case, the family were really appreciative of what I did back then. They didn't tell me to stop. They encouraged me to continue on covering the case. And so did anyone else with any other case that I covered. Justin, can you say that for yourself? Do you have an extensive line and experience with true crime and missing person cases? Because I don't think you do. Because if you truly did, you would not put yourself in this position where the police tell you to take a step back and when some of the family members tell you to back off. And what did you do, Justin? At least relevant to the time, did you back off properly? No, you didn't. Because the lines that you would say, Justin, is, oh, I'm going to take a step back. Oh, I'm going to take some time out. 2 days later, you're back, like a bad smell. Oh, you're done with my channel as of February 2025. So ask me, Justin, why are you still obsessing and commenting right now, even on videos which had not much or nothing to do with you? You incompetent, walking, talking contradiction plank. Get a grip of yourself. How many times do I have to tell you this, Justin? How many times do I have to call you incompetent until you realise you truly are? And that the damage or the confusion or any tension or any backlash at times is by your own doing and recklessness. Stop throwing the toys out the pram, close your mouth, open your eyes, and look, listen, and learn. Do your job, Justin, and know your role and place. Because it seems like your role and place in the case has overstepped with Noah's family in the past, and even the police. Of all people you could cross the line with, it was them. That's not smart. That isn't a good idea. If I've pissed people off over time, you know who that was? Irrelevant humans, mortal humans that aren't a part of the case and just passerbys, stand-bys, members of the general public. If members of the general public tell me to stop, just like how you did, Justin, you were indirectly, subconsciously, practically begging me to stop and was hoping that I would stop covering this case. What advocate for Noah Presgrove, what person in their right mind would actually want and beg other people to stop covering a case and keeping it alive? If Noah Presgrove was here right now and he heard or saw what you said, wanting less people to cover the case, he would be absolutely ashamed of you. Likely, Noah would want as much coverage and awareness as possible within reason and or holistically. That's what I provide, and that's what I've done for a long time. It's a shame you can't see that, Justin. It is such a shame. But just to read it out once again, because we like being broken records, Ashley Chadwick at the time had said, well, first off, we don't even know who Justin Roy is. Well, that's a great start, isn't it? That's back then, but still, it was what was said. Secondly, Madison Rawlings was like, family friend? He's never been around our family outside of some wrestling match. And my aunt didn't even know who he was. And that Keith knew of Justin just because of some school events, really. Oh, and as well, that some person hadn't overstepped in this, but Ashley Chadwick said, we have asked Justin Roy to back off due to the behind-the-scene chaos that was created and the hell that has came with it. You know what? When it came to the 1 year anniversary of Noah's death, first time round, most sensitive, emotional time for Noah's family. At such an emotional time, it was the army page and certain members on that were attacking Noah's family. What did Justin Roy do about it? Not too much. Or was a bit slow in acting and just said, oh, I don't know, I didn't really notice it. Funny, Justin, you don't seem to know a lot, but you also seem to know a lot. Sounds like Caden Pressey to me. Caden has an awfully amazing memory when it suits him, but other times he doesn't know. Oh, and Justin and other people, I didn't see this and I didn't see that. Oh, you didn't? Oh, but you saw everything else. This is probably one of, in terms of true crime cases, just as an observation only, as a person within the community, Justin Roy is probably one of the worst humans I've come across in true crime communities. And I've seen a lot and I've covered a lot. So anyone watching right now as a witness, when I say that, I don't say that lightly. In regard to incompetence, in regard to just not being able to see their own mistakes, not being able to take accountability, they are one of the worst individuals ever in true crime cases communities. Observation. And I'm entitled to make my observations and opinions because I actually have experience with this extensively, and it's on my channel as well. There is a little bit more here though. Ashley Chadwick directly responds to Justin and says, It seems as if you continue to fail to look into the mirror. To be honest, Ashley, I think that still rings till this day. Justin does fail to look himself into the mirror, even right now. We'll just read it one more time because I know Justin likes being a broken record. Justin, it seems as if you continue to fail to look into the mirror. One does not need to fabricate fake accounts to slander or harass people. You, Justin, were a huge part of the slander and manipulation. Oh, wow, Justin, what's this? Let's just go back to it. Oh my God, everyone watching right now in this live premiere, everyone in the background, call your dogs, call your cats, call your rabbits, Donna Bond, call your blind deaf frogs. Everybody watching right now and everyone in the background, even if you watch silently, lock in right now. Justin just recently, as of a day ago, said that I'm a manipulative, vindictive psychopath. That's what Justin says. I am a manipulative person. Takes one to know one, right? Because Ashley Chadwick said, you were a huge part of the slander and manipulation, the continuous times of inboxing people despite what you were directed to stop doing but continued. Justin Roy, you absolute plank. What have you done in the past for this to come about? Oh, I see. This is wrong. This is out of context. This is vindictive. This is manipulative. Stop using your regurgitated, boring words. It's not going to work anymore, Justin. You have messed up, or you had done in the past. You continued to do so. When people tell you to take a step back or to step down, you push harder. Even going against the family's wishes and the police. That's not respect, that's disrespect for Noah, that's disrespect for Noah's case, that's disrespect for justice, that's disrespect for the victim's family. You think you know better, you think you care more. Just remember, it's the victim's family and the friends that are caught up within it truly, not you, Justin. It's not all about you. You might have known Noah, but so did other people, and other people knew Noah a lot closer than you did, and they've been impacted more. But your own emotions are driving you forwards like a bull in a china shop, neglecting the considerations of other people and how they're feeling in the matter. It's not good. It's not a good look. We'll read it one more time just so we can drill it into that skull. Ashley Chadwick said to Justin Roy, it seems as if you continue to fail to look into the mirror. One does not need to fabricate fake accounts or slander, harass people. You, Justin, were a huge part of the slander and manipulation, the continuous times of inboxing people, harassing, despite what you were directed to stop doing, it continued. Not only towards me, but to others, including my family. So Ashley says that Justin was allowing people to constantly attack us. You did nothing. It appears you encouraged it with your two-sided stories, excuses. No apology can fix the behaviour you did and allowed others to do. Furthermore, the people you have brought into this now inserted themselves that have indeed needed to back off, additionally have slandered others towards the ones we speak to and have brought into our circle. Additionally, I am beyond sick and tired of this projecting behaviour of playing the victim card and finger pointing. You have reached out to certain family members to give your lame apology only because it was directed by someone else for you to do so, wasn't by your own. And this is the thing, Justin Roy has grovelled like a dog to Victor Presgrove when there was a mess up and there was a mistake made. Justin, because there was a screenshot somewhere, Facebook Messenger, and he was saying, oh, I'm so sorry, Victor. I'm so sorry. Shame you can't apologise to everyone else you've messed up on, Justin, you tool. Why not for once in your life, Justin, take accountability for all that reckless language and wording, all those toxic lines and digs because you had nothing better to say, and false claims made, and slanderous claims towards Brenda Goodfellow, and slanderous claims towards other people. your false claims towards me and my channel, and so much more, Justin. You can play the victim card as much as you like. I made the observation in recent time, Justin, that you've been playing the victim card, making it all about yourself, that the whole world is against you. And guess what, Justin? Even one of Noah's family members at some point said, we are sick of you, Justin, playing the victim card and finger pointing. You still continue to play the finger pointing. And when you do spread misinformation or you make a mistake, what do? You point your finger to the nearest person where you got the information from. You take no accountability. You don't verify it always. You just believe in it and trust me, bro, process. So if you got screwed over by George Choden, you didn't consider, you were just all naive, lackadaisical, dipsy daisy. Oh, and it happened again and again and again and again. When does it stop, Justin? Sounds awfully similar in parallel to your own toxic behaviour. If Noah's family calls you out, if the police call you out, you don't look like a good advocate for justice for Noah, do you? You look more like a problem. You have brought this all upon yourself. This is the words of Noah's cousin, a family member, so it should mean something, right? Oh yeah, and one last thing, Justin. You said, why haven't I questioned or covered about the red Mustang and brown sweat's car? So then ask me why you chose not to watch this video on my channel. Considering how obsessed you are and how often you come round to comment and complain, I thought you would have spent some more time researching before complaining, but clearly you didn't. Because on the 22nd of April 2026 premiered The Mystery of Brylan Sweat's Car, suspicion heating up again. You can see that this video is about Brylan Sweat and the Mustang. And if that's not good enough, Justin, you need reassurance because there's an instability going on. Well, look at her. Why is it so hard to get answers on simple events? Join me as we look into the mystery of Brylan Sweat and Caden Pressey, the red Mustang. We also take a look at the growing suspicion by members in the community towards others. Such strange times. Do you see that, Justin? Look, listen and learn. Read what's on screen now. Pause the video, take a screenshot, print it off, stick it on your bedroom wall so every morning you wake up, you remind yourself in life of how much of an incompetent, impetuous, egocentric plank you are because you assume that I don't do this and I don't do that when there's actual proof and hard evidence on my channel. The fact that you're coming to this platform, the fact that you're coming to my channel and making false claims and demanding and assuming and thinking the worst when on this very platform, on this very channel, all the evidence is already here and you're not bothering in looking at it or researching. This is on you, Justin. I hope you wake up every day and realise how much of a plank you've made yourself appear by saying that, oh, I don't cover this or that. Look what's on screen, a video of mine, Brylan Sweat, the car, what happened with it, red Mustang. How was it taken home? Who took it home? I asked all that, Justin. You've shown up too late. As people would say, it's old news, bro. Justin, you have a lot of learning to do, don't you? So what are people going to say as for counterpoints and responses? Oh, bullying. Oh, nasty. Oh, obsessed. Oh, this, that. But reality is, if you actually bother to listen, I document the case and what goes on within it. If people put their foot into the case, they become a part of the case. So naturally, I will cover that. I look at behavioural shifts and changes within the community like I've always done with every case that I've covered. It's what I'm known for. So get used to it. Or tough shit. Okay? As well. It's not being negative, it's making valid over observations, and I'm backing it up with evidence along the way and material. I'm backing it up with experience, I'm backing it up with comparisons, and it's all archived on my channel. You do know the real reason as to why Justin Roy isn't blocked on YouTube on this channel, because look at the way he acts and behaves. If at any point people need to defend themselves or needs material and evidence, it's all here. It's all by his own doing. What Justin needs to realise when he plays the victim card and says, why are you trying to make me look bad? The reality is, it's all self-inflicted. You've done that to yourself. If you actually acted like a better human with more patience, more understanding, more depth, a better mind, a more healthier one, you wouldn't be in the mess that you are. You wouldn't be as attacked as you claim to be. If you just did better, you would be better off. You chose not to. That's on you. So some of the problems that have come about is because of your own actions and behavior. You've brought it upon yourself. When will you understand? Yeah. And as for Caden Pressey, making him look bad. Once again, it can be self-inflicted. When you present yourself, don't act suspicious because people will see you as suspicious. Just like how Stevie Howard said, well, if we were responsible, we would have done a better job at hiding Noah's body. Why would you say that? Of course, you put a target on yourself and act suspicious. At a time without the full context of Jack saying in that Facebook Messenger, Noah passed away around 4 a.m. Why do you say that? And what's the context? Maybe there was more, but that's all we had at the time, unfortunately. So it looked like Jack knew more. And if you know more, like the time of death, were you there to see it then? Do you know more, but you're not letting on? It's unfortunate. But if that's out of context, it's out of Jack's control. What about Colton Newton then? Where Colton Newton said to Vanessa Salazar under a different account at the time about keep your name out, stop reaching out to the Milan family, because if you continue, I'll come and find you, and swear words, threatening language. Why do you say that? Why would you say that? If you want to appear innocent, don't be acting suspicious or don't be acting threatening. People bring it upon themselves. You act out, react in a negative way, a nasty way, a dark way, whatever it is, you bring it upon yourself. You might be innocent, but you don't do yourself any favours in appearing innocent. You tarnish your own reputation, you tarnish your own credibility, and then you try and point the blame at other people for your own downfall when it was your own doing. That type of blame and using someone as a scapegoat is the exact same tactics as an abuser in an abusive relationship. Whenever anything goes wrong, your own mishaps, your own failures, you try and point the finger at the other person, such as a partner, and blame them for all your own doings and all your own failures. And then they take the blame, take the rap, because you're too embarrassed to admit how much of a mess up you are at times in your language, your wording, or whatever you do. Or if you act threatening and then people are suspicious of you, you've done that to yourself, but oh no, it was someone else's fault. It's never your fault. Never taking accountability, just like an abuser. Do you see there is a crossover and an overlap, not of the title, but of the shared behaviour and personality of different people out there? The common theme and the constant theme is not able to take accountability, not able to admit. But who it overlaps with, different sets of people within this world. They know better to one another. Let's just put it like that. With that all being said, in regard to Caden Pressey, his vagueness, the EMS, Emergency Medical Services, it's an umbrella term. It doesn't definitively say firefighters only or ambulance paramedics only. It includes all of them. So when you use the term EMS, you're basically saying they were all present. Oh, you're trying to twist the words. You're being manipulative, as Justin would say. No, I am working with what I've got based on the limited description by another person. We have to figure it out for ourselves because the other person can't be bothered to make it clear enough. There is a difference there. Get it right. Okay? I have dealt with enough humans in life that are very vague, yet somehow they expect me to know everything. How am I supposed to know when I don't know in the first place? Get your point across, explain yourself. And if you don't explain yourself, that's fine. There are different reasons, there are exceptions, that's understandable. But don't be acting disappointed in me and don't be having a go at me if I don't know or if I get it wrong. I am stabbing in the dark. I am guessing as I go along because like in life, I tend not to know because people choose not to tell. Okay? But there are always exceptions where a person is suffocated or drowned where they can't say anything, and that's normal. That's understandable. But if any of those humans had the cheek to turn it on me, don't you even dare bother doing that. Because when it comes to being trusted, you've got to present yourself in a certain way. When it comes to being believed in, you've got to act a certain way. It should come across as natural, but also somewhat neutral or positive. Act too defensive, what good does that do? Demand for everyone to know but not say anything, what good does that do? It's just like true crime cases. Oh, this happened and that happened. I know, I've reached out, I've been told this and I've been told that. What good does that do on the general public in trying to believe in it? If you haven't got the evidence or you're not willing to show it, you can't expect people to change their minds. Unless it's with common sense, unless there's a bit more truth or there's a bit more trust, but that tends to be lacking. So you can't expect people to change their minds. And if you expect them to, be willing to provide the evidence to back it up, because if not, waste of time. That's the way I see it. There's some exceptions along the way with common sense and how obvious something can be, or if it does align briefly with other things, or what family may have said, even if it is just by words. But it is not enough consistency or common sense, but you need absolute evidence, but you're not willing to show it or provide it. Don't expect or demand people to change their ways of thinking immediately just by that, based on words, because it would be considered hearsay. Is that not good enough? That's not good enough, right? Humans can make it hard on themselves by their own recklessness in true crime cases. Humans can play the victim card by saying, why are you making me out to be a bad person? Why are you making out or making me look bad? In true crime cases, when the actual reality is, as a matter of fact, it's their own doing, linking to their own downfall. If they don't want to look bad, then stop being bad. It's not that difficult. Stupid, isn't it? You might as well say to a serial killer, you don't want to be seen as a killer no more. Well, stop killing, you incompetent plank. I mean, how much more stupid does it have to get? It just goes to show that true crime and the communities do seem to encourage and lure in a lot of problematic humans over time, collectively, over the course of different cases. And the problematic people are the ones that will blame everyone else. The problematic people are the ones that will say that they're the victim. The problematic people are the ones that will always have an answer for everything, and also divert and deflect at times. Psychologically, they are corrupt. Their mind has been compromised. Their behaviour is known and it has been documented. Embarrassing. With that all being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the like button, share the video to spread the awareness of the most problematic people in this case and what Noah's family had to say about it as well. If you want to hit the like button, feel free to do so, but appreciate those that did watch and those that watched in the background. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.